So I'm Kyle Heffley. I'm here with Stuart Arnold, or Stu for short.
That'll do. I've been called
That'll
worse.
do? You've been called worse? I can call you worse.
I know you can. It's okay. I guarantee you I've heard a lot worse in the past.
So you're the owner of Fortnight Brewery.
It was my silly idea to start the company way back when, and yeah, there's a lot of history behind it, but I am the largest shareholder, but I do have some significant shareholders.
Well, why don't you tell us about the
company.
history of the brewery then?
History of the brewery, I mean, it goes back, I've actually lived in North Carolina for 9 years, and I've been traveling here for approximately 16 years.
You're
on
obviously
business.
not from North Carolina.
No, I'm from Texas. And I was traveling backwards and forwards, and then out of the blue, I guess, I was offered the chance to relocate to North Carolina. My daughter was 9, so this was like 9 years ago, and I was fed up of traveling in all the traffic. I'm from the north of England, but I was fed up in traveling of all the, I was working in a London contract at the time, so it was taking me 2 hours to drive 20 miles and that kind of thing.
Commute.
And it just rains every weekend, you know, so you work Monday to Friday and you look forward to doing something. So got the chance, I'd been out here several times on business, so I thought, got the chance, let's do it. My wife and my daughter followed me over blindly, and that was it. That's a long story short. We were just over here.
Okay.
So I've been here for 9 years, and as you know, Sean Wilson, instrumental in Pop the Cap. You could only buy a 6% beer in North Carolina when I first arrived here.
Those were the dark times.
For the first couple of years, you could get some good beers, but not a lot of good beers, and you couldn't get the beers that I was used to drinking back home or driving across to Belgium and, you know, across the channel and bringing them back some good stuff.
Right.
That was all missing. When Sean from Full Steam, you know, the modest guy who says it wasn't really his initiative to do that and it was all his helpers, deserves a big pat on the back from anybody in North Carolina, as far as I'm concerned, for raising the limit up to 15%. I think it was about 7 years ago, right?
2004, I think, if I remember correctly. I could be off.
Okay, so maybe a bit longer. But the thing is, it may be coincidence. I have no data to back this up, but there was a proliferation of breweries that just opened around that time that Pop the Cap happened. And that was nice because we got more brewers making more beers. But what I found to happen, even though it was interesting tasting all these flavors, it was, I hate to be stereotypical, but it seemed to turn into like a war. Who could brew the strongest, hoppiest beer, whatever. And I got pretty tired of that. Coming from the UK, I'm used to drinking not really hop-forward beers and malty beers and typically lower alcohol beers. And so
actual session beers.
Yeah, session beers. Session beers is funny because it's actually a term that I've never really heard used ever in England. I think it's a term that was probably coined over in America or maybe in England and was read in a history book by somebody in America and then it just expanded. I don't know where it came from, but I can go into the history lesson about where I think session beer came from, but your tape's probably not long enough to go into that. But yeah, I started missing lower alcohol, high flavor beers. I could get plenty of high flavor beers, but they were highly hopped, and highly hopping just, it destroyed, it masked a lot of the flavors.
Right.
So I wanted to brew something that was reminiscent of what I used to drink back home, and the only way to do that was to go brew it myself. So well, let me step back a little while from there. I used to work at Cisco. I quit about 2 months ago. It's what are we now? June, July 2014.
End of July,
yeah. I quit there about 2 months ago, but you probably know that there was 3 guys that originally started up Lone Rider, Sumit Vohra, Mihir Patel and Steve Cramlin. And funnily enough, I was 2 of their team leads. So we used to work in the same room all the time. And Mihir used
conspiring to make a brewery.
well, they were. I wasn't. I was just listening all the time.
Right.
And I actually tried to get in at the ground level, but they decided that they could go it by themselves. You know, which was absolutely fine by me. You know, good luck, guys. And they did. They went off and they started a brewery. And as you know, it's probably one of the most successful in the Triangle area.
They make excellent beer.
They do. Yeah. And Sumit's done a great job at marketing and selling that beer too, as well. Because I couldn't get in at the ground level, and I was tired of the rat race. I mean, I'm 48 now. I would have been 40, early 40s at the time. I was hating the office job, sat in the cubicle, turning up for work every morning, and I just thought, if Sumit can do it, then I can do it. So I just started Googling, and I ran into a guy that was trying to set up a brewing company called Billy Goat Brewing at the time. His name was Maurizio Mercado, Mo Mercado, and I just cold called him. Came around to my basement. We had a few beers. I took a look at his business plan, and I said, "This is unlike any other business plan that I've seen before. I think you may want to rewrite that, and just because I'd had a little bit of experience in business plans and stuff like that." And I said, "But by the way, I'm interested in doing a brewery," and it just went on from there. He came to me and he said, "I'm really interested in rewriting it. Will you rewrite the business plan?" So we just went down and did that, and we kind of modeled it on the Lone Rider venture, where it was Lone Rider started off in approximately a 7,000 square foot facility.
Okay.
But then that's around about the time that I started talking to all the other brewery owners around here. I started talking to Sean at Full Steam, Eric at Mystery, and all the other guys that were opening around about the 5 or 6 year time. And I was just like digging for answers all the time, saying, and not necessarily asking them what they did wrong, but what would you do different next time?
Right.
And
learn from their experience.
Absolutely, and invariably the two things that they came back with was we would start with a larger premise and a larger brew house, but that obviously means you need a lot more money.
Yeah.
And I'd written my business plan around this smaller brewery around about the Lone Rider size.
Lone Rider, I know Full Steam's like 12 barrels. They can brew like 12 or 14 barrels at a time.
I think maybe they've upgraded to 15, and I think maybe Lone Rider have. I could be wrong with those figures.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure, but I think the thing that was holding Lone Rider back was the size of the facility. But they got around that problem by leasing other facilities on the same industrial complex.
Right.
So they conquered that that obstacle, and they're doing really well now. I mean, they can supply their demand quite easy, but I didn't want the hassle of smaller buildings located all over the place.
Right.
So I've digressed somewhat.
But you guys had this building built for you.
We didn't have it built. So the story was about the origins of the brewery. It was like, and then I'll go back and say that I just cold called Mo and got him round, and we'd got the business plan kind of based on the Lone Rider type of model. And a friend of mine who's done very well in building his own companies and selling his own companies said, "Let me introduce you to a guy that I've done lots of real estate work with." And so he introduced me to this guy, and we went around looking at places that were similar square footage, similar kind of price. And we did that like for a month, maybe 2 months. And then we always joke about it. I don't know how it happened, but one day he just turned around and he pulled me to one side and he said, "Look, if I could find you the right place in the right location at the right price, would you think about coming in and buying it with me?" And I'm like, "Show me what you've got." And within a few weeks, he showed us this place.
Nice.
And it was like, "But I can't afford this." And he says, "Yes, we can." Yes, we can. If we structure it in a certain way, and he's a commercial real estate guy.
Right.
And then my friend, who's made quite a lot of money in the intellectual property software market, has dealt with this other guy in commercial real estate and has been really successful with him. And he just said, if he wants to buy into that building, I want to buy into that building too. And if I'm going to buy into the building, I'm going to buy into the brewery. And I'm like, okay, so that means I'm going to have to rewrite the business plans completely because
all of a sudden you've got more people.
We've gone from a 7,000 square foot building to a 24,000 square foot building. And that was just like humongous. I mean, you can only see we're sat in around about 7,000 square feet. We're walled in, but at the back.
That's what this room is, approximately?
Absolutely, where we are now. But if we were to step back and behind and show you where our cooler and all our grain storage, that's another 12,000 square feet. And as you know, we've sublet 3,000 square feet to American Brewmaster as well. And we've got about an 1,800 square foot tap room over there, which roughly adds up to about 24,000 square feet. So yeah, I rewrote the business plan. We bought the building. We had a chance to, we were looking at buying a 15 barrel system, but then Fortune raised its head again. And I had this opportunity to buy a 30 barrel system for like, I don't know, a dozen eggs more than it would have cost me for a
Right.
15 barrel system.
Go
I'm
for
like,
the 30.
I'm like, where do I sign? I want it now. So we signed, and that was it. And we planned for success. We're on a main road location out there, which most breweries don't have the luxury of having. And so that brings in traffic from non-craft
A
brewers.
little far from Durham. Said you're a little far from Durham.
Little far from Durham, yeah, I know. Did I say Durham? You're gonna have to cut that little bit out, aren't you?
I just think all breweries should be located in
Oh,
Durham.
okay, I get you. Right. Let me have a drink. I'll catch up with you. So, yeah. So that was the whole story of bringing the brewery together, and the partners then just fell into line once my guy had brought in. Saying that he wanted to invest in this, he said, let's bring in strategic investors, and that's when it just became way out of my, comfort zone. And I was happy to have a guy like him behind me, and I've been very fortunate in that he's guided me so far in setting up this and doing business deals and bringing in strategic partners. And also I have to give a big shout out to like Sumit Vohra at Lone Rider. We've remained awesome friends all these last 5 or 6 years. He's given me a lot of hints and tips and do's and don'ts, as has Sean Wilson, as has Eric. It's a great community. It really is a great community to be involved in.
That's great that you guys used to work in the same room and now you each own
Yeah,
breweries.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I keep joking that I'm going to take Sumit over one day, but we'll see.